Okay, guys, let's go over the homework from last night. On number 1, you should have gotten 5.24 inches. Questions on that? Guys, off your phones. Off your phones. On number 1, you should have gotten 5.24 inches. Do you have questions? Yes. Okay, did everyone get 5.2 on the warm-up? Okay, so just to kind of review what you do here, you're going to use the formula that's on the board. It says arc length over 2 pi r equals theta over 360. Theta just represents the unknown angle measure. So that arc measure right here, up to 75 degrees, that goes in for theta. And then your r is 4, that goes here. We are trying to find arc length, so that's going to be your x. So what is r? What is r on number 1? 4. What is your theta? What's the arc measure? 75 degrees. Now, you're going to cross multiply. Okay. And I know that 2 times 4 is 8. And then 8 times 75 should give you 600. Is that right? Okay, so on this side, that's 360x. And that's 600 pi. Leave everything in terms of pi until you are completely done, especially for the coloring activity we do. You're going to have to leave pi in your answer. Okay. Now, to get x by itself, you just divide by 360. And you get x equals 5.24 inches. What about number 2? You should have gotten 150.1 degrees. Do I need to go over that one? Okay, I'm seeing a few yeses, a few nos. Let's go over it just to make sure. Again, I start out my problems, and eventually you're not going to need to because you're going to have it memorized, but I start out every problem by writing down the formula and seeing what pieces do I have of that formula, okay? So arc length over 2 pi r equals theta over 360. Well, in this case, we have that arc length, it's 1.31. Do we have the radius? Guys, stay with me. Off your phones, please. The radius is 0.5, so that goes in for r. Theta is what you are looking for. That's going to be your x. And then that's over 360. That's just part of the formula. It doesn't change. Now, when you cross multiply, can everyone see? Can everyone see? When you cross multiply here, what is 2 times 0.5? 1. What is 1 times pi? Pi, okay? So this is just going to be pi times x, right? You multiply those. On this side, what is 1.31 times 360? 471, yep. Okay. And that's just that. So now what do we do? Divide by pi. So you should get x equals 150.1 degrees because it's asking you for the measure of that arc. Not the length, it's asking for the measure. Questions? On number 3, you were asked to find the radius. You should have gotten 9.5, and that's in feet. Questions there? Yes. What did you get? Okay. Let's see what happened. I'm going to set it up, and you're going to make sure you set it up the same. So, what are we asked to find on number 3? You're asked to find the radius. Guys, you can talk. So, is the radius part of our formula? Okay, what goes 2 pi times r, right? That's part of the formula. So instead of r, you can keep it r and just solve for r, or you can go ahead and call it x. Because that's what we're trying to find is the radius. So what is the arc length? Mm-hmm. 56.37. And that's over 2 pi. And then we're trying to find r. So I'm going to put an x in for r. And then the arc measure is going to be 340 degrees over 360. Now from here, what do? Don't touch pi until the very end. Just keep it pi or keep it in terms of pi. What is 340 times 2? 680. That's going to be 680 pi times our x, right? And then what's 56.37 times 360? Go ahead and say it. It's a big number. Thank you. So you were asking about this. How are we doing so far? Okay. Do you know what you did wrong? What out of curiosity, what happened? Gotcha. And that's a common mistake. She forgot to put her 2 right here, and that happens. But 2 pi r is just part of the formula. Because if you have headphones in, please take them out. Yes, ma'am. That's when you're finding the circumference. We're just looking for the radius on this one. But yes, sometimes you do replace that entire part right here with x. Okay, because what is 2 pi r? What's that for? What is that from? That's the circumference formula. Okay, sorry you can't see. So from here, you're going to divide by 680 pi, and you should get x equals 9.5, and that is in feet. On number 4, what are you asked to find, Dalton? Circumference. So that's just part of the formula. And again, I start out my problems. You probably already have this formula memorized, but it doesn't hurt to keep writing it down. Okay, it's arc length over 2 pi r equals theta over 360. Now, do you see that 2 pi r is the formula for circumference? So we are going to replace that entire denominator with an x. So what is the arc length? 7.94. What is our arc measure? 70. And that's over 360. Now just cross multiply. What's 7.94 times 360? Okay. Now divide by 70. You should get 40.8 inches. Questions? Back page. Yeah, these were fun, but on 5, 6, 7, and 8, all you're doing is you're looking at circles and you're finding the circumference of circles and you're adding that to the side lengths that are already given to you. So look at number 5. Can you see that? Hold on. This is basically half of a circle. Okay, so we're going to use that. If that's half of the circle, what is the radius of that circle? 4. So how do you find circumference? 2 pi times r, and then r is just 4. So what's 2 times 4? So that, if that were a whole circle, the whole circumference would be 8 pi. However, we only have half of that. So you're going to take 8 pi, divide it by 2. 2 goes into itself 1 time. 2 goes into 8 4 times. So that is 4 pi. So this distance is 4 pi. Now, okay, so we have to figure out the rest. If this is the radius and it's 4, what is this side right here? That's also a radius, right? So that's 4 units. This side and this side are the same. So that is 8. So this is 8. And because of these little tick marks, those other sides are also 8. Can you see that? So to get the perimeter, you're going to take 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus the 4 pi. The perimeter should be around 36.57 units. Yes. Did you include this? Well, that's going to be inside the figure. You're looking at, so perimeter is the distance around something. But we used that to figure out the other outside distances. That makes sense? And it's kind of hard, the directions say find the perimeter of the shaded region. It was kind of hard to tell what was shaded, but the entire thing is shaded here. Okay, number 6. You should have gotten 28.57 units. Again, those 4 corners make one circle. So these 4 corners here, 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 and here, those make one circle. Off your phones. So if this distance is 4, right? 4 units. What would the radius be? What would half of 4 be? 2. Okay. So that's the circle that we're dealing with. The radius is 2. So if the radius is 2, circumference is 2 pi times r. So that's going to be 2 pi times 2, which is just 4 pi. So those purple parts that I have outlined, those distances all add up to be 4 pi. Yes. Yeah. 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 There are multiple ways of doing these. I'm just showing you what I'm seeing. Okay. And then, so after you found those distances, you have to account for the other ones. Let's do light blue. We've got this distance, this distance, this distance, and this distance, and all of those are 4. What is 4 times 4? So we have 16 plus 4 pi. That's your perimeter. Make sense? Okay, number 7. Again, when you take these 3 sections, guess what they make? They make a full circle. If you know this distance is 6, right? Sorry, that's kind of hard to see. What would half of 6 be? So the radius is 3. Can you see how I did that? Okay, so if you're trying to find the circumference of that circle, of those 3 green pieces that make a circle together, the radius is 3. So circumference is 2 pi times 3. That is just 6 pi. So after you get that, you have to account for these pieces. Those 3 added together give you 18. And then that big circle is 6 pi. When you add those together, what do you get? It's 36.85 centimeters. Okay. What do you think you have to do on number 8? Just out of curiosity, what do you think you're going to have to do? Control. Stay with me. Guess what these make? A circle. Even though it's kind of inverted, you're still looking at length. You're not looking at area. You're looking at length, the distance around this figure. So when you put all of those together, that makes a big circle. What do you think the radius of that circle is? Okay, if this piece is 2, okay, those are going to be the same, but the entire thing from here to here is 6. This top piece has to be 2. Like if we were to make a radius right there, you'll see that. If we were to make a radius right there out of that 1/4 of a circle, the radius would be 2. Can you see that? So the circumference is 2 pi times 2. So the circumference of those 4 pieces together that make a circle is just 4 pi. Okay. So then up top, this is 6 inches because of those 2 marks. So the perimeter is 6 plus 6 plus 2 plus 2 plus the 4 pi. And that gives you 28.57 inches. What about number 9? Guys, sit up, sit up. I'm making a video for people who are at home so they can see how to do these problems, but please stay with me. I know you're tired. I know you just had lunch. Believe me, I get it. Okay, so what's going on with number 9? What's going on? We got 2 circles, and we got some other areas to cover. So it gives you that from there to there is 10 inches. From there to there is 10 inches. You have to find basically this arc length and this arc length. Well, guess what? You have a formula to find arc length, and that's what you're going to use. So look at this rear sprocket. It gives you that the circumference is 12 inches. So if we look at our formula, arc length over 2 pi r equals theta over 360. Is circumference a part of that circle? Is circumference a part of that formula? Yeah. So what you're going to do is you're going to replace that whole thing with 12 for the first one. Okay. So the arc length is what we are trying to find. We're trying to find that distance. Remember, length is going to be in linear units. That's going to be our x. And then you have 2 pi r, which is circumference, but they already give you that, so the 12 goes here. Your arc measure is just 160 for this one over 360. Now you cross multiply. What is 12 times 160? Divide by 360, divide by 360, and x should be 5.3. Okay, so that tells you this is 5.3. This arc I have in purple or pink, however you see it, is 5.3. Now we need to find the other arc length. Well, they give you the circumference again. What is the circumference of this front sprocket? Guys, stay with me. 20. So that's your circumference. That is 2 pi r. So we're going to replace the 2 pi r with 20. Okay, does everyone see what I did? I'm trying to find that length. I'm trying to find the arc length, so I put that in for x. And then theta is your arc measure. Our arc measure is given to us. It's 185 degrees, so that goes here. From here, you just cross multiply. 360x equals 20 times 185, 3,700, divide by 360, and x should be 10.3. So that means this section here is 10.3 inches. And when you add all of those up, 5.3, 10, 10.3, and 10, you end up getting 35.6 inches.